If you want a car that is fun to drive, doesn't sacrifice on practicality, and is relatively affordable, you have to look at a hot hatchback. And the Volkswagen Golf is one of the most popular, longest lasting ones out there, one of the best options. Today I am driving a Mark 7.5 Golf GTI. It's a 2018 model year car, the mid-cycle refresh of the current generation of the GTI. The basics of this car: it has a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder. Factory, it made 220 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque. With this mid-cycle refresh, some of the cars got a little bit of a bump in power, but for some reason in America, our models did not get the power increase. Transmission is a 6-speed manual as standard. It can be optioned with a 6-speed DSG automatic transmission, which is what this car has. Front-wheel drive is the only driven wheels of availability. There's a couple different trim levels, from the S to the SE. For the 2019, there was this like special Rabbit Edition version, and then the top tier one is the Autobahn Edition, which is the one I am driving today. We'll talk about performance. 0 to 60 in 6 seconds, quarter mile and 14s at just under 100 was what they were tested at from the factory, for 220 horsepower to the front wheels, which is pretty good. It's quick enough. But the owner of this one wasn't that satisfied with the 220 horsepower performance. Per his words, it was only 220, not enough. So this has a stage 1 Unitronic tune. Ups the horsepower to close to 280 is what the owner told me, and it definitely feels a lot stronger. Per the owner, I've not driven a APR Stage 1 GTI. I've driven an APR tuned Golf R, but the Stage 1 tune from Unitronic is supposed to be a little more linear, less punchy, like non-linear versus the APR. So he's really happy with it, and I feel the power increase definitely. This one also has a AWE catback exhaust that makes it a little bit louder. It sounds pretty good, but overall it's got some nice little mods to it that make it an even more fun drive vehicle. Some very important performance-related things that the updated Golf GTI gets, especially in this top-tier trim, are a limited-slip differential. Instead of utilizing the brakes, it helps it put the power down in the corners, because remember, you only get the 2 front wheels driven. It does definitely help when you're turning. You don't get one wheel just kind of spinning furiously. You also get upgraded brakes on this vehicle, but just from the base recipe, you get front engine, turbocharged small displacement motor. It's got a quick shifting dual clutch transmission. Front wheel drive, it's pretty light and nimble. It doesn't feel gigantic. It's fun to drive. The steering is not the most communicative. It is a little bit numb at times, but I like the way it's weighted. And again, the owner also reiterated this, and after driving it, I do agree with him. It does feel a little bit nimbler and lighter than the Golf R. Now, with the Golf R, you do get all-wheel drive. Some of the other competitors, like a Subaru WRX, you do get all-wheel drive, so you will lose out on that with the GTI. But, I mean, from regular daily driving, a quick little fun car to drive, it's not that much of a loss. Let's talk about the exterior styling. I really like the way the GTI looks, the Golf GTI of all generations. The Mark 7 is very sharp. The 7.5 brought some minor changes to it. I really like how on the front fascia, on the front grille, you get that little red stripe that kind of carries into the daytime running lights and the headlights. The owner has added some vinyl accents to it. You get different wheels on this one. This is a fully optioned Autobahn one, so you get the top tier everything. I will say, though, the Mark 7.5 to 7 changes are pretty minor, and also between generations. I've been guilty of looking at a Mark 5 and Mark 6 and not knowing. It's like, is this a Mark 5 GTI or a Mark 6? I don't remember. I'm sorry. The generation to generation styling changes aren't huge. On the inside, the Golf has always been great. I mean, for the price range you're looking at, we'll talk a little bit more about the value, but really good materials. Again, this is the pricier Autobahn trim, so you got like the Fender upgraded audio system. It's got the full leather. It has some nice red stitching. It's got adaptive cruise control, lane keep assist. It's got some blind spot warning. Got some nice tech features in here. Basic luxury amenities are there, but the biggest thing is the practicality. It's a fun to drive vehicle that has ample storage space in the trunk. You can seat 4 adults in here comfortably. You can put things in here. You fold the seats down. You got cavernous amounts of space in it. So it's the practicality that doesn't come at any cost. It's not like you lose out on anything. So I really like the interior of this car. I personally would still prefer to spec it with, I think, a manual transmission as a fun to drive vehicle, but this was the owner's daily driver, and he just didn't want to deal with a manual for the daily, and he got the DSG, which is not a horrible thing to have. You do get Apple CarPlay, Android Auto with this new screen here. The screen has pretty good graphics, good response. It's pretty easy to understand and know what's going on. But again, the Golf Interior isn't over-the-top, blingy or anything, but it's not very basic and smart. It's just the right, perfect amount of what you would want. But again, it's a GTI, so let's talk a little bit about what it's like to drive. This tune wakes it up. It definitely has some good power to it, more than stock, that 220. The transmission could use the TCU tune. I'm really interested to try that out. The power does seem to fall off a little bit at the top end, but for a front-wheel drive little hatchback, it's fun to throw around. It does feel nimble. It doesn't feel large and ponderous. I enjoy driving this car, and I think the tune and exhaust do wake it up and make it a little more exciting. Now, we get to talking about the value. This car is stickered for $36,000. That's very expensive. The range, like a base S model, I think you can get for $28,000, but that's going to miss out a lot of things. I will say, getting the higher end trim like the Autobahn will bring you the limited slip differential, which is important to driving. But at $36,000, you're getting close to something like a Golf R. There's a lot of other options out there for the money. I think the sweet spot would be right in the middle, maybe an SE trim, something like that. Option of a few things, or get a slightly used one. It's still a really, really good value, because you purchase something for, let's just say, $35,000. You get yourself a muscle car or a Mustang or something like that. It's not gonna be as practical. But the GTI has been able to seat 4 adults comfortably, put a smile on your face, get good fuel economy while doing it. It's kind of an all-around. It can do everything, which is, I think, the best part of its value. So there we go, the latest generation of the Volkswagen Golf GTI. If you want to experience what this car is like, but are on a tighter budget, get a previous generation, Mark 5 or a Mark 6. It's the same DNA and the same essence about what the car is about. They feel very, very similar. This one just seems to be the latest one with the most updated technology. The performance there is a little bit faster, but you can get a previous one and do similar modifications on it. I really like how the Stage 1 tune wakes this car up. I think it's a brilliant thing to do. There's not too much to spend. You get noticeable performance increases. Yeah, your warranty is gone, but you're not going to be stressing it where some people do big turbo builds, and you can go crazy with these and make them pretty fast. But again, there will be negatives to that. So I think Stage 1, maybe a Stage 2 tune is a nice place to be. I mean, this is the fun-to-drive car that can be used year-round. It's a daily driver. It's practical. It'll put a smile on your face. I mean, there really isn't any downside to it. So there we go. The Mark 7.5 Golf GTI review. I like it a lot with the Stage 1 Unitronic tune. Hope you guys like this video. If you have any questions, please comment below. Check out the ownership interview I did with the owner, Kevin. We talked about kind of what he uses the car for, why he did this tune, his future plans for it. If you're thinking about getting some sort of GTI, definitely check it out. Thanks for watching.